My name is Neferkefri, your hostess with the ghostess, and today I'm talking about Mary Worth. Have you heard of Mary Worth?
First, who was Mary Worth? Well, according to the story floating around when I was a child, she was a witch who was burned at the stake. Now, in America, witchcraft paranoia was limited to Salem, Massachusetts, having come across the pond from England. And in Salem, witches were not burned at the stake, they were hung. I believe one witch was stoned to death. So the myth that Mary Worth was a witch who was burned at the stake, she was not burned at the stake, at least not here in America, so we know that's not true. Another part of the story is that she was a woman who was brutally murdered, and then the psycho who murdered her later on desecrated her grave in the graveyard. And because of that, she grew to be an unrestful spirit who then roamed around and proceeded to attack people in their homes in various ways. That's just another part of the Mary Worth story. Now, fast forward to the late 1960s, early 1970s in northern Illinois. Somehow this story grew to prominence in schools. I don't know really what started it off, but it swept through the whole school system like wildfire. And kids were having sleepovers and lighting candles and trying to summon the spirit of Mary Worth. Why the kids thought that was a good idea, I don't know. Personally, my friends and I did it just because we thought it would be funny. We truly, in our heart of hearts, never really expected anything to happen. But the theory behind Mary Worth is that you're supposed to light a candle in front of a mirror in a dark room. Ideally, the candle needs to be black. And you set it in front of the mirror, and as you do, you gaze into the mirror, focusing on the reflection of the candle flame within the mirror, and you say Mary Worth's name 3 times. And as you're doing this, somehow her spirit is supposed to manifest in some way or another. Now, there have been reports people have seen fog in the mirror, which is something that happens in the experience I'm going to share with you today. Others say they've seen the reflection of a skeletal face of a woman. And others say that they've seen like demonic faces appear. Now, this can be caused by looking at the flame of a candle within a mirror because something happens to the way the eye focuses. When you're looking at a flame, at the reflection of a flame, it can cause you to hallucinate. It can cause your features to look distorted, to look elongated, to look somewhat evil. And so I think in a lot of these cases, that's probably what was going on, is the reflection of the candle was causing some sort of optical hallucination. And so this story spread like wildfire all through northern Illinois. Like I said, late 60s, early 70s. I was in 6th grade when this incident happened to me, and I was 12, so that was, let's see, 1963 plus 12, 1975 is when this experience occurs. So now I'm going to share with you what happened when I was in elementary school, and I decided, along with 2 friends of mine, to see what would happen if we attempted to conjure up the spirit of Mary Worth. Stay tuned.
And if you watch horror movies like I do, that reminds you of the Candyman series. And you know, Candyman, it was the same thing. You say his name 3 times, he comes, and he kills everybody you know. You know, that's actually based on a true story, by the way, from the housing project Cabrini Green on the south side of Chicago. It thankfully no longer exists. I grew up in Waukegan, an hour north of Chicago, and throughout my childhood, on the news, Cabrini Green was on the news almost every single night because so many shootings occurred there, so many murders. And his story also occurs there, but that's a whole other thing. But it just brought it to my mind because of the Mary Worth and the similarity between the two stories. Well, I was in 6th grade, and that was a weird year for me, most likely because I was going into puberty. I experienced my first cycle that school year. And so I think what happens when a child goes through that, it heightens your psychic awareness. And I think it also opens you up, because I had so many bizarre things happen to me that year and the following year, as my hormones were beginning to rage. So that's my theory as to why those 2 years were so bizarre in my life. So this is another experience from the 6th grade. In my previous video, I talk about my first experience with the Ouija board. That's linked below in the description. This happened, they were probably a month apart, if even. So with Mary Worth, the story is the girls at school, we all conspired. We had 3 6th grade classes in my school. I had friends in each of those classes because, going through elementary school, the student body rotates each year. And so you get a different group of kids in your class, in your grade. So you basically, by the time you get into 6th grade, you know everybody in your entire grade, because at one point or another, they've been in one of your classes. So I had friends in the other 2 6th grade classes, and we had conspired to ask to go to the bathroom at the same time, because we were going to do the Mary Worth thing in the bathroom. Kids, right? And so the time rolls around, and I asked my teacher if I could use the restroom. And he was a real nice guy. He's like, yeah, sure, here's the pass, go on, And I go to the bathroom, and my other 2 friends were already there waiting on me. And then there was only 3 of us. They never allowed more than 1 child from the classroom to go to the bathroom at the same time. They didn't know we had outfoxed them. And so the 3 of us are in the bathroom, and we're all excited because we're all in there together at the same time. We're going to do the Mary Worth thing, right? And so we get up in front of the mirror, and then we're like, okay, who's gonna say Mary Worth? And one of us says, we should all say it together. And then I was like, being kind of chicken and having a strong belief in the paranormal already because of my dad's experiences growing up and me hearing the stories, I was kind of like, I don't know. I think we should pick one person to do it. And I said, I nominate Lorna. And Lorna's like, wait, what? She's like, okay, I'll do it. And she had like 2 or 3 older sisters who were always picking on her. And so I think she wanted to, act like the big girls. So she was going to be the one to say Mary Worth's name. So we turned off the overhead fluorescent lights, and we still had some light coming in from the sole window in the bathroom at the opposite end of the room, but it wasn't very much. So it was pretty murky in there. And we couldn't have a lit candle, so we didn't have that. But Lorna, we all looked into the mirror, and Lorna said Mary Worth 3 times, and then we waited. Nothing happened. And we were really disappointed. And so we're like, yeah, that Mary Worth, that's all a bunch of crap, So we all go back to our classrooms because, you can't be gone very long or they'll send the posse out looking for you, So we go back to our classrooms, right? And life went on as usual. And that happened to be a Friday that this happened on. So Monday, we're all in school. And all of a sudden, there's this ruckus out in the hallway. Now, my 6th grade class was just a little ways down from the girls' bathroom. Probably, I can't really remember now, but probably like 2 rooms. We were like maybe the 3rd room down from the girls' bathroom. And on the opposite side of the hallway, too. And we hear this ruckus out in the hallway, and we hear someone out there crying. And we're like, what's going on? And my desk was nearest the door. So I jumped out to take a look out because my 6th grade teacher, he was extremely lenient with us. I mean, he was the best teacher. He was always throwing us parties and stuff. It was great. And so I stick my head out the door and look, and he's like, will you get in the classroom? I'm like, hang on. Hey, look, there's a girl out here crying. And he's like, what? So he comes to look. Practically the whole classroom gets up to come look. And there's a girl sitting on the floor right outside the girls' bathroom, and she's got her face in her hands like this, and she's crying and crying and crying. And there's a teacher over her and a couple of other kids over her, and they're like, what happened? What happened? And she's like, my face, my face. I got scratched. And we're like, they're like, what? And she says, you know, she still has her head down, her hands are covering her face, she's sobbing, her shoulders are shaking. And she says, my face, somebody scratched my face. And I'm like, who scratched your face? In the girls' bathroom. And there was, you know, the teacher saying this to her. And then one of the boys, there was a boy and there was a girl standing over her. And the boy, he jumps up right away, and he was squatting to be near the girl who was sitting on the floor. He jumps up right. He goes running into the girl's bathroom immediately. And he's in there, I don't know, 5 seconds or so. He comes back out and he says to the teacher who was there, he says, there's no one in there. I checked all the stalls. It's empty. And the teacher says to the girl, do you know who it was? And the girl says, no. And she's crying and crying. And by this time, my teacher's gotten the classroom back under control. We're all back in our seats. He has closed the door. So we no longer can overhear what's going on in the hallway. We just know something's going on because now we're hearing more, you know, footsteps coming, other adults murmuring. And he's like, it's going to be okay. It's fine. Look, we're going to carry on with our class, you know. And we're like, oh, man. So then at lunch, this happened in the morning, happened about 10 o'clock in the morning, which was kind of weird thinking back on it later on, because the three of us girls, we had conspired to meet in the girls' bathroom at 10:20 in the morning. And I don't even know why we decided on 10:20, but we did. And the girl who was supposedly attacked in the girls' bathroom or just outside the girls' bathroom, her incident occurred a little bit after 10. And I don't remember the exact time. It may have been 10:20. I don't know. But it was at least 10:15. Because we had just had our spelling test. And we had our spelling test like at, you know, 10 in the morning, 5 to 10, something like that, every Monday. And so, you know, we go to lunch, and the buzz around the lunchroom was, what happened outside the girls' bathroom? What happened? And then someone was like, yeah, it was so-and-so. And it was a girl who was younger than me, so I didn't know her. She wasn't in my grade. I think she was like in 4th grade. And they said that she had been in the bathroom washing her hands at the sink, and that somehow, some way, her face was scratched. And according to the girl, there was no one else in the bathroom. And evidently she was looking down in the sink, as you do, and you've got soap on your hands, you know, and you're rinsing your hands off in the sink. And I'm getting this now, 2nd, 3rd, maybe even 5th hand by now, who knows. And the kid's telling us at my table, he's saying, yeah, and she was looking down, washing her hands, and all of a sudden she felt something really hot on her face, and she kind of looked up, and she had this big gash across her cheek. And I'm sitting there with my other 2 friends with whom we'd done the Mary Worth thing the previous Friday. And all 3 of us just kind of look at each other. We don't say anything. We just look at each other. And the boy says, that's what I've heard. You know, he goes walking off. And since the girl was in a different grade than us, she had already had her lunch period. So she wasn't in the lunchroom with us older kids. So no one could speak to her directly or see, you know, did she go home for the day? No one knew anything else. And so now it's the next day. It's like a Tuesday. You know, it was a Tuesday. And, you know, by this time I had told my parents about it, and they were like, what do you think happened? I think, you know, you think a kid scratched her? And I said, must have been. I didn't let on about the Mary Worth thing, you know. And so then the next day, Tuesday rolls around, we go back to school, you know, and we're there in our classroom. All of a sudden, we're hearing screaming in the hallway. And I mean, like somebody was out there dying. And our teacher jumps up, he goes running out. And so, of course, half the classroom follows him into the hallway, including me, because like I said, my desk was right there next to the door. And there's a girl outside the girls' bathroom, and she's just got her hands on her head like this, and she's screaming. And he's grabbing her. There's another teacher grabbing her. They're like, what happened? What happened? Are you okay? What happened? And my teacher goes into the girls' bathroom because, of course, he remembered the day before. And I guess as an adult, his first thought is there's someone in the girls' bathroom attacking kids. That must have been what he thought, because he went rushing into the girls' bathroom. And there's now a couple of other teachers out there. One of them has commandeered us kids, gotten us back into our classroom, and she's standing in the open doorway of our classroom to prevent us from going back out into the hallway. But she's wanting to hear what's going on, right? So she leaves the door to our room open. And the girls are screaming, somebody scratched her. And then they're like, who was in the bathroom with you? And she said, I don't know. I don't know if anyone was in the stalls. I was at the sink and somebody scratched me and there was nobody there. And she was beside herself. And then the teacher, who was standing in the doorway of my classroom, she kind of puts her hands up and goes like this. I said, what's the matter? What's the matter? And she says to me, that girl's got a scratch on her face. I can see it. And I'm like, oh my God. So I turn around, I'm telling the kid behind me, and it goes through my classroom like wildfire. Now we all know this girl actually had an actual scratch on her face. So a teacher comes back, and then it goes, new rule for the girls' bathroom. Every girl who goes to the bathroom now has to go with a buddy. So we were allowed to go in pairs. We were never, ever, ever allowed to go more than one at a time. Throughout all of elementary school, you always went by yourself. And so girls started using that bathroom in pairs. And nothing happened. I think the rest of that week, it may have been a couple of weeks go by. My memory fades. I'm 61. This happened when I was, 12. But it was traumatic enough to where, I still have a really good memory of it. So I think it was like at least a week goes by, maybe 2. And then the exact same thing happens. Now remember, in the meantime, the girls have been allowed to use the restroom in pairs. So now there's 2 girls in there. We hear screaming again coming from across the hall. My teacher immediately goes flying out of the room. Of course, we go get in the doorway, and he goes, there's the a 4th grade class right next to the girls' bathroom. That teacher was already over there. There were 2 girls outside the girls' bathroom crying and screaming, saying that as they looked in the mirror, they thought they could see, and this is what I heard, because again, my desk is right by the door, remember? So I'm standing up, I'm actually in the hallway. I'm separated from my room by a good 2-3 feet, so I can overhear everything at this point. And one of the girls is saying, the other one was too hysterical. She was screaming, crying. It was awful. You don't ever want to hear that. And she says, we're at the sink, and suddenly there was this fog. And they're like, a fog? Like, yeah, a fog. And then she starts screaming, I start screaming, we run out, and the other girl says, I got scratched. So that's what was going on in the girls' bathroom. So that at lunch that day, I'm sitting there with my 2 friends, 3 of us, and, not 3 friends, 2 friends, plus me, make 3. And we're sitting there, and we're like, oh my God, do you think that was Mary Worth? And one of us says, don't say her name. So, we don't mention her by name, but we're like, what else could it be? Because people had gone into the girls' bathroom and determined there was no one else in there to have done this. So then, I can't remember now how much time went by after that incident, but I think it was probably close to a week, because my dad at the time was president of the PTA or maybe it was the PTO, I forget what they call it, the Parent Teacher Association or the Parent Teacher Organization. Well, he was president, and they were going to have their meeting, and then at the meeting, this of course got brought up because everybody's concerned about the safety of the girls in the school now because someone's been going around scratching girls. And they assumed it was another child. My dad, who of course was raised in a small mountain village in Michoacan, Mexico, in which a lot of weird shit happened. He grew up with a lot of weird stuff happening to him, and he was just beginning to tell me these stories now that I was 12. There's another video here called Never Mock the Devil, and that comes from him, something that happened to his grandfather, my great-grandfather. You know, again, a true story. He had not told me that story yet because he hadn't deemed me old enough. He told me when I was 14 because that's when that's how old he was when my grandfather told him the story. But it gives you an idea of the level of weirdness in this small Michoacan village. And I'll try to remember to link to that one below in the description as well. But he starts telling the people at the meeting there, the other members of the PTA or PTO, whichever it was called, maybe it's not a person. And they were like, oh, I think an animal's in the school. And he's like, not really. And then he said, and because he was president of the PTA, he had a little more details than other people about what was going on. He said the one girl saw a mist in front of the mirror, saw a fog. And he says, I don't know where anybody else here grew up, but where I grew up, when you see mists in front of mirrors, that means a spirit is manifesting. It's like, oh, come on, Bob. No, that's baloney. That's not true. And he goes, hey, man, happened in my family a number of times, mist in front of the mirror. And they all kind of went, they were a little taken aback. And they're like, are you serious? He's like, yes, I'm very serious. And my dad said, we need to get a priest to go in and bless that bathroom. And they all start laughing, you know. And then one of the other members of the board, and you've got to remember, all these people are parents. All of their kids attend this school, okay? I mean, not all of their kids. They all had kids who attended this school. Another parent speaks up and says, you know, what could it hurt? What could it hurt to get a priest to go in and say some prayers? And then another one says, hey, you never know. Weird stuff does happen. Maybe there is something very strange going on. It's a very old building. You know, it had a lot of history there. A lot of stuff happened. I mean, no one died in it, but, you know, it was a really old school. So that's what they did, evidently, not on a school day, of course, but I think it was the following Saturday or the following Sunday. My dad got our priest from our church, Father O'Connell, to go and bless the bathroom. And Dad drove him to the school, and they were met by some upper up who had the keys. I don't know if it was the janitor, the principal, whoever, let him in. And according to Dad now, when he and Father O'Connell went into the bathroom, he said the bathroom was like ice cold. He said the rest of the school felt normal. And it was like, it was toward the end of the school year too. So it was starting to get warm. And you got to remember, this is Northern Illinois. It was like April, maybe early May or so. We still had kind of chilly days, but not enough to where there would be temperature differentiation from like the hallway of the school and then into one of the rooms. They said the hallway felt normal. My dad said the hallway felt normal. They go into the bathroom and it was ice cold. He said it was like walking into a refrigerator. It was that cold in the bathroom, to where he went and checked the window. He thought maybe someone had cracked the window open and left it open. It wasn't open, but it was really cold in there. And that as the priest began to say the prayers and sprinkle the holy water and do whatever he was doing, Dad said he could start to see the priest's breath on the air. So it got even colder. And that all of a sudden, toward the end of the prayers, the temperature immediately leveled out. Dad said from 1 minute he was like his teeth were almost chattering to the next minute the room felt normal. The cold just left. It didn't dissipate, it just left. And then Father O'Connell finished the blessings, walked out, and he turned to my dad and he said, there was something very evil in that bathroom. I don't know what it was, but it's gone now. Hopefully it won't be back. And it never did come back as far as I know. I mean, again, I was in 6th grade. I was getting close to graduating and going off to middle school. I don't know what happened after that. But that is the story of saying Mary Worth in front of a mirror 3 times. Is it something I recommend? Not really. But it's just one of those folk tales you hear over and over growing up, you know, as a kid. And I know a lot of kids try this. I don't know if anything else weird has ever happened. But that's what happened at my school. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Have you ever done anything in front of a mirror and then something freaky happened? Or have you had freaky experiences with mirrors? Mirrors are portals, you know. Yeah, they are. That's why in your home, you should never have 2 mirrors facing each other. They create a natural spirit hallway that can lead to paranormal activity in your home. So check your homes. If you've got a mirror across from another mirror, move one of those mirrors. Or even a reflective surface, like glass in a framed picture. You've got it across a hallway from a mirror. You should move one of them. So thank you for watching. If you liked what you saw, I ask you to give this video a like, subscribe to my channel, and above all, please drop a comment. My videos are getting out in front of new people. It's because of comments from lovely people like you. Thank you so very, very much. This has been Nefer Kefri, your hostess with the ghostess. You've been watching True Tales of the Paranormal. Have a lovely week.